Contaminating the rest of this country.
Anything. The Cowboys are America's team. Get over it. What do you want from me? It's not the Steelers.
Heck-Shram wins.
No.
Can I go? Can I continue here?
Please.
Okay, thank you. They call it the billion-dollar playpen, but it's been anything but home sweet home for the Dallas Cowboys. Since the start of the 2015 season, the Cowboys, listen to this, they've only won 2 games at AT&T Stadium. How is this possible? During that same span, Wiley High School, Frisco Lone Star, Allen High School, and the Alabama Crimson Tide have 3 wins, while Lake Ridge High School and Texas A&M have the same amount of wins as Dallas there. They host the Bengals this weekend. Stephen A., you're going to like this question. What do you make of the Cowboys' home field disadvantage?
Well, listen, let's understand why they have a disadvantage. Some people will point to the billion-dollar playpen. The fact that the stadium itself is absolutely sensational, no question about it. I've been there before. Jerry Jones did a spectacular job. There are distractions. People can be in the concession areas and still peek out, and the Jumbotron is so huge, so big. I think it's like 50 yards wide or 60 yards wide. I mean, listen, it is spectacular. But the number one reason that the Dallas Cowboys have a disadvantage at home is because they're a mediocre franchise. They don't win often enough. And as a result, the fervor that you'd get, the momentum that you could ride, a home crowd needs evidence that that stuff actually works for them. And when that is not the case, it's going to be the momentum, the uproar, the fervor, the rabid following. It's going to be a bit dissipated to some degree. There's just no way around that. The Dallas Cowboys have all these distractions, the uniforms, the cheerleaders, the stadium, and everything else, because they know they can't rely on the product that they put on the field to come through on a week-to-week, year-to-year basis.
But we see it.
That's the problem.
But we see it with other franchises, like the New York Knicks, by the way, Stephen A., that still sell out the Garden like for consecutive months on end, even when they're a last-place franchise. There's some franchises that resonate in a way with the fans where even when they're not great, the fans support. The problem the Cowboys have is the stadium is so big, there's so many seats to fill, and with standing room only, you get over 100,000 people in there. Jerry Jones wants to sell tickets. So fans take road trips. You know, opposing teams fans take road trips. They want to go see their team play the Cowboys at the 8th wonder of the world, or whatever you want to call it. So you get fans from other teams in there. I mean, that's really what's happening, is the fact that they're bad.
Hey, Max Kellerman, quick question.
Yeah.
Where were you last month?
Dallas Cowboys Stadium, yeah.
Yeah, why were you there?
A fight. Canelo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a great stadium, and they use the stadiums to bring other amenities there because they got to rely on it because they damn sure can't rely on the team.
Quick story about that. I called Manny Pacquiao's fight along with Jim Lampley and Roy Jones in 2010 against Antonio Margarito, okay? That was November 13th, 2010. At that moment, after that fight, Manny Pacquiao had more wins that year at Dallas Cowboys Stadium, now AT&T Stadium, than the Cowboys did. And in fact, the Cowboys wouldn't tie Pacquiao until their last home game of the season right before Christmas, December 19th. One fighter had as many home wins that year as the Dallas Cowboys, 2010. They don't have really a home field advantage.
No, that's why we called it a disadvantage. All right, now that we've beat up on the Cowboys enough, let's talk about they're actually having a very good season, and much of that success is being linked to their rookie quarterback, Dak Prescott, who in 4 games so far has thrown for over 1,000 yards, has 5 total touchdowns, and hasn't thrown a pick yet. That is what I find most impressive, but a major surprise this season has also been their solid defense. So is Dak Prescott getting too much credit for their success, Stephen A.?
I believe he is, believe it or not. He's been very impressive. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but that offensive line has been stout. Ezekiel Elliott has been a stud, and the defense has not been that bad. And when you look Rod Marinelli and what they've been doing with that defense. When you look at McClain and how he's come back and how well he played last week, when you look at the pieces that they have been missing, the DeMarcus Lawrences of the world, the the Randy Gregory's of the world and others, and somehow, some way, they still manage to be in this position. Dak Prescott deserves a lot of credit because he's a fourth-round pick and a rookie, playing lights out because he's not turning the ball over. But when you look at numbers, look at Ezekiel Elliott and the 278 yards he's rushed for in the last 2 weeks. Look at this defense and how it stepped up to the challenge, making key stops at pivotal moments. Look at this offensive line not just protecting Dak Prescott, but also creating holes for Ezekiel Elliott and the Dallas Cowboys running game. And when I look at it from that perspective, I think that Dak Prescott hasn't had to come to the rescue, per se. He was impressive against the Redskins. We can't take anything away from them. Can't take anything away from the fact that he hasn't turned the ball over. But the reality is that I think everybody's treating him like he's the second coming of Dan Marino. When Dan Marino took over for Don Strock years ago, if I remember correctly, and had Mark Superduper and had Mark Clayton and went out there and played lights out, and in his second year took the Miami Dolphins to the Super Bowl because he was flinging 300-yard games all over the place just with a rifle arm and doing everything, en route to reminding us or to telling us he was going to be a future Hall of Famer. That's not what I'm getting from Dak Prescott. I'm getting a guy that's far more impressive than I thought he would be because of where he was drafted, by virtue of the fact that he's not turning over the ball and he seems very poised. But that running game and that defense deserves more credit than Dak Prescott at this moment in time.
You done with your soliloquy, as you call them when I do them? You all done with that?
Professor Smith?
Sure.
Yeah, Professor Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
Because he is not
I do look
getting
like a
too
professor
much
today.
credit.
But doctor will suffice because I am Dr. Smith. I do have an honorary
You've been an
doctorate
honorary
from
doctorate?
my alma mater. So
From where?
Dr. Smith,
You have an
Dr.
honorary
Smith wouldn't be
doctorate?
Who
applicable.
gave you an honorary
I
doctorate?
need to know this.
Winston-Salem State University.
Wow.
Well, congratulations, Dr. Smith.
Dr. Smith,
So,
I apologize.
Dr. Smith will
They
be
don't take the
just fine.
honorary away after
I
that. You
apologize,
just
yeah.
earned that was your
Yeah.
dissertation.
Listen, Doc, that's my bad.
Yeah, look, Dak Prescott's not getting too much credit. He's getting the appropriate amount of credit.
Appropriate.
That's
oh,
right,
Lord.
appropriate. He is getting the credit he deserves. No one's calling him the second coming of Dan Marino. That's a nice straw man you invented. But people think he does look like a young stud quarterback. Now, last year, the idea with the Cowboys was, boy, with that offensive line, if their defense could just be middle of the pack, which it is this year, and Whedon and some backup quarterback can just tread water till Romo gets back, maybe they could make a run. You knew the Cowboys, underneath it all, just needed a pretty good quarterback, and they could maybe stay in the mix. But they have something better than a pretty good quarterback. They have a really good quarterback. Now, he is second in QBR in the NFL at this moment. We all know Matt Ryan is running away with it right now in terms of putting distance between himself and the rest of the pack at the quarterback position, given the way his offense is played. And quarterbacks get a lot of credit, as you pointed out, for the way the whole system works and the way they're integrated into it. Matt Ryan deserves that credit. So does Dak Prescott. Other than Matt Ryan, he is playing as well, according to QBR, better than any other quarterback in the NFL. Now, if you have questions about Dak Prescott, and I do, it's not about whether he's actually an excellent quarterback or he's going to have an excellent career should he stay healthy. I think yes, my answer is yes. The question is, does he hit a rookie wall this year? What happens when other teams start game planning for him as they compile more and more tape on him? You know he's not going to throw no interceptions. What happens when they turn the ball over and things aren't going their way? What happens when the schedule gets much tougher because it's been quite easy so far? The Dallas Cowboys so far, all 4 games have come against last-place teams. And their 3 wins combined 3-9 record for the teams that they've beaten. So those are the questions about Dak Prescott. It's not, is he good or not? We all know he's good. Can he continue to be good? We all know he deserves that. Others also deserve credit on the Cowboys, but so does he, and he's getting that credit correctly.
Well, let me ask you a question. Well, you have your questions, I have mine. Don't tell me what questions to field or what is the appropriate question to ask. I'm answering the question that was asked to me. That's what I
said he's
feel
getting
like
the appropriate
saying.
amount of
When I
credit.
think about when I think about Dak Prescott, you know what I think about, Max? The man has completed 89 passes, 68% of his passes. It's very impressive. 90 QBR, very impressive. Has only thrown three touchdowns. Only 3 touchdowns in 4 games. But let me also say this: 29 of these receptions went to Cole Beasley. 29 of those receptions went to Jason Witten. So when I look at it from that perspective, I see a guy that's throwing in between the numbers, short, intermediate passes, and feeding off of that. All I'm trying to say to you is when I think about a quarterback and whether or not somebody's spectacular, I like to see the ability to throw outside the numbers, to feed your wideouts. I want to see the Terrence Williams have more than 14 receptions in 4 games. I know Dez has been hurt, and I get all of that, but I want to see those kind of things. Or a Bryce Butler who's got about 13 receptions in 4 games. I want to see more of that outside the numbers. Let me see you throw the long ball. He hasn't been asked to do that as of yet.
Oh, he's a rookie.
It'll be interesting to see.
They're handling him correctly. That's why they've won. Listen,
I'm not saying
they've won games they're supposed to win.
Wait a minute. You're
same thing
changing
with
the
Carson
narrative.
Wentz.
I'm not saying they're mishandling him. I'm saying to you that there are things that I haven't seen. I got news for you. I've seen Carson Wentz throw a deep ball. I've seen him connect with Jordan Matthews on a couple of passes. I have yet to see Dak Prescott connect with anybody on for the Dallas Cowboys. It would be nice to see that.
Well, if the question is who would you rank 1 and who would you rank 2 so far based on the eyeball test this year, Carson Wentz or Dak Prescott among rookie quarterbacks, I put Carson Wentz 1, little ahead of Dak Prescott at this moment. That doesn't mean Prescott's getting too much credit.
But that wasn't the question.
The question is Prescott getting too much credit? He's the quarterback of a team that's 3-1, and the one loss came by a point. Is he getting too much credit? 4 games into his NFL career, everyone knows about the offensive line.
Ezekiel Elliott has rushed for 278 yards in the last 2 games. I think that has a lot to do with the success of the Dallas Cowboys offense, has a lot to do with their running game, has a lot to do with the offensive line, and has a lot to do with a defense that right now is ranked 10th in the NFL. For the Dallas Cowboys, that's a very significant thing.
I think that a lot of it has to do with playing the Browns and the Bears. I mean, you really want to talk about it. They've had a weak schedule. But Dak Prescott can't choose the schedule. He can't choose the offensive system, which everyone knew this year. Even had Romo been the quarterback, had he been healthy, everyone knew they drafted Elliott where they did because they wanted to make use of that offensive line in the running game. That was going to be the game plan coming into the season. It's Dak Prescott's fault that they're following it to success. His fault that they're playing weak teams. All he's doing is balling.
Gentlemen, let's pick it. Who you got? You going Bengals or Cowboys?
Bengals.
Well, ask me first because we know it's important for Max to have the last word, even if he has to regurgitate his comments about 4 or 5 times. So ask me first because we all know he's going to interrupt just to get in the last word to say the same thing that he said 10 minutes ago.
If I don't interrupt,
what's the question?
I don't get to say anything.
Ask me.
Okay, yes.
Ask me.
Stephen A.
What's the question?
Stephen A., who are you going with, Cowboys or Bengals?
Bengals. Oh, sorry.
Bengals.
Both going with the Bengals.
Bengals.